So you live in California and you're wanting to relocate to right here in Seattle, Washington. If that's you, you're gonna wanna stick around because this video is going to be just for you. We're gonna discuss some of the things that you will need to know before you pack your bags, leave California, and make your way up here to Seattle. And we're getting after it right now. Hey, listen, if this is your first time ever visiting our channel, please like and subscribe so that you can be in the know as to what's going on right here in the Seattle, Washington market. Hey, listen, Chris, myself, and the team, we get phone calls, text, and emails every single day from people just like you looking to pack their bags from California and make their move up here to Seattle. So I don't care if you're looking at moving in 9 days or 90 days, shoot us a phone call, a text, or an email so that we can help you make that smooth move to Seattle. All right, so the number one thing that I think we should look at first of all is going to be cost of living. Now, when people do relocate up here to Seattle, a lot of times the cost of living is something that is relatively painful for them. Most time people are relocating up here from the South or the East Coast. They're literally sticker shocked by how expensive some things are here. Now, I believe for you coming from California, you're not going to experience that quite as much. Seattle does rank about 68% higher than the national average as far as cost of living. But at the same time, cities like Los Angeles rank at about 176%. So ultimately, Seattle might be a little cheaper for you on the day-to-day versus if you came from somewhere else. So you might have a little bit of relief in the process. If we take a look at a city like San Francisco, for example, to have an average life, a normal daily routine, it's gonna cost you about $8,800 a month, according to studies. But if you look at numbeo.com, Seattle sits around $7,500 for that same cost of living when you look at Seattle versus San Francisco. Now, as a real estate broker, I'm always keeping my eye on the housing market. And when you're relocating, this is obviously going to be one of your biggest expenses. And most people get up here and they really don't have a good idea of what homes are going to cost them. So taking a look at San Diego, right now, the average home costs about $855,000. If we look at LA, it's around $921,000. But if we look at the average home cost in Seattle right now, it sits somewhere between $755,000 and $800,000. So you can probably get a little bit more home than you're used to for about the same price, which should be really nice. Depending on where you live at in California, transportation in Seattle could be a big difference for you. Now, if you're already living in a major city, this might not be quite as extensively shocking, but owning a car in Seattle is going to cost you roughly $30 a day. Between parking, fuel, and Washington being one of the worst states for wear and tear on your vehicles, it's going to really eat at you a lot. Not to mention the consistent rain and all the damage that comes with rust. We do have in Seattle fantastic public transportation. You can purchase it using your Orchid card that's refillable, and it allows you to access the buses, the light rails, the shuttle taxis, ferries, and literally anything else you need in the Seattle area. And most people spend about $100 a month on that card. So public transportation could be something that could be a huge blessing for you. Depending where you're at in California, nature might be something that you've really taken advantage of, or maybe not. But here in the Emerald City, and we call it that because everything is so green, and if you look at the city of Seattle in general, we probably have more trees and greenery inside the city than any other major metropolitan area in the United States. But when you get out here, there is plenty to enjoy. You can travel down and visit Mount Rainier National Park. We have tons of great state parks in the area. We're all about hiking, kayaking, getting out on the lake, getting out on the sound. playing basketball, playing baseball, playing soccer. We are outdoor people in general. So if being more in tune with nature is something that you really feel called to do, then this might be something that might be a really big benefit for you and your family. One of my favorite things to do is to hit some of the islands and even down by Tacoma and do whale watching. The whales are stunning. It's really cool to get to see orcas. It's really cool to see even other wildlife like seals playing on a regular basis. And don't forget, if you just want to go to a park, Discovery Park here in Seattle is 534 acres. So that is a lot of greenery. It's actually one of the largest in-city parks in the entire United States. Now, if you want to visit any of those places, one of the major downsides to making your move from California to Seattle is going to be the traffic. Now, if you're in someplace like LA already, you're probably already used to the traffic jams. So that's not going to change for you. But if you're more from a more rural area of California, Seattle traffic is going to hurt. Seattle is essentially an hour from Seattle. I-5 is always a mess. I-405 has construction going virtually all the time. The roads are always backed up, and it does seem like everybody gets out and about at around the same exact time. Now, not to mention that both of our major sports teams, the Mariners and the Seahawks and the Sounders during their season are all within just one block of one another, and both their stadiums are right downtown. So if you're planning on traveling downtown at the time of any of those major events, you're definitely going to want to make sure that you are being prepared for the fact that you're going to be waiting a hell of a long time to get where you're going. One of the reasons you're going to spend a lot of time on the road is getting to and from work. Now, that said, there are more remote job opportunities in Seattle than pretty much anywhere else in the country. So when you're making your move from California to Seattle, one of the best pieces of advice I can give you to help you secure a home faster is to go ahead and get a letter of explanation from your employer. That's right, go ahead and secure your job before you get here. That is a huge one. And there is plenty of opportunities for it with major companies like Amazon, Microsoft, Meta, Nordstrom, Alaskan Airlines, Costco, and plenty more giant headquarters, not to mention places like our local, Starbucks headquarters is here. So there's no shortage of jobs whatsoever, and Seattle, in fact, actually ranks well below the national average when it comes to unemployment. One thing, depending on where you're at, if you're coming from Northern California, it might not be so dramatic, but if you're coming from Southern California, the weather in Seattle could be something that is a little hard to get adjusted to. If you're used to those San Diego 75 sunny days at the beach, Seattle is going to probably be a huge shock. During part of the year, we have a ton of gray and a lot of overcast, which causes a lot of people to feel really down and really sad, frankly. Now, the summers here are second to none. They are the most beautiful summers I have ever seen. But I will tell you, sometimes I'm kind of curious if I'm just so used to the gray and the rain in the winter and fall that the summers look that much more pretty. But the climate is very temperate. You're looking somewhere between that 40 to 80 degree weather on a regular basis. So I think for a lot of you, that part will definitely be very easy for you, but the darkness and the gray and the rain could be kind of shocking. Speaking of the darkness, we have something we do call the big dark, and this will be hard for you probably to adjust to, so I need you to be aware of it in advance. So about Thanksgiving time, we narrow down to about 8 hours of sunlight a day. You're gonna wake up in the dark, you're gonna leave for work in the dark, you're gonna come home from work in the dark, and basically anything you do is gonna be happening in the dark. One thing I would like for you to be aware of also is what's called the Seattle freeze. People in California have always been very kind, very fun, and very open. Up here in the Pacific Northwest, people have a little harder time adjusting to not only newcomers, but just new people in general. People in the Pacific Northwest are a little bit more reserved, and you really have to kind of prove that you are there to make friends and then you're not gonna flake on people. And initially when I transplanted from out of the area, the Seattle freeze was something that really, really bothered me. But what I have found is that people in Seattle are just extremely busy. And if they're not busy, they've got something fun they want to be doing. So making friends here is not impossible. I've made a ton of friends. We've got great family friends. We've built businesses up here. Everything you can imagine doing with other people, but it does take a little bit more time, a little bit more energy, and a little bit more effort on your part. So when you get up here, make sure you're taking time to plug into work friends, into church friends, find hobbies that you can do with other people. Really make it an active part of your process when you move from California to Seattle to get to know other people so that you don't feel lonely here. One major plus is that you can factor in a little bit more of your income when you do move to Seattle. I do know that taxes in California for state income tax range anywhere from about 8.3% to 12.3%. But here in Washington State, we actually do not have any state income tax at all. So according to the state, whatever you earn is yours. Obviously, you still have to pay your federal taxes just like you would anywhere, but that could be an extra 8 to 12% more income back in your pocket. And like we said earlier in this video, the cost of living in Seattle, depending on where you're at in California, is already a little bit lower. So that could be an extra little bit of cushion to your pocket. California is known for the glitz and the glamour of Hollywood. And if you're in that area, I certainly can respect that and that culture. We do things a little bit differently here in Seattle. So we are definitely all about the arts. We are definitely all about culture, but we do have a lot more museums. We have a lot more galleries. We have a ton of street art. In fact, that's a really great point. A lot of stuff is brought out to the street. We have beautiful murals everywhere, a lot of really badass graffiti to check out. While you all have had so many great actors and actresses inside of Hollywood, we're known for our music scene and the music that we put out of the area. So if you're still into art, if you're into music, Seattle's a place that you're gonna feel really comfortable in. Another adjustment that you might need to make is that Seattle is a wildly dog-friendly city. So if your pups have been banished to the backyard for the last 10 years in California, I can tell you here that's not gonna be the case. In fact, there are more dogs in Seattle than there actually are children. And we treat them probably about the same. Pups are welcome inside of restaurants, they're welcome inside of cafes. Wherever you go, they basically go. So that might be a little bit of a shock for you, seeing animals just moving freely like that. I hope that's kind of a fun end to this list. There's a lot of differences between California and Seattle. And as you make those moves, just remember that the places that you're going to are not exactly like the place that you're coming from, and that is a great thing. We want to move on, we want to take on new adventures and experience new things. So again, if you guys are looking to make your move from California to Seattle, myself, Chris, and the team, we're getting phone calls, texts, and emails every single day from people just like you. So if you're moving in 9 days or 90 days, doesn't matter to me. Reach out, shoot us a call, an email, or a text message, so we can help you make that smooth move from California to right here in Seattle. And until next time, when you get up here, I can't wait to show you around.